This is Across the Aisle, a podcast about bipartisanship by the National Conference of State Legislatures. I'm Kelly Griffin. Our look at bipartisanship in state houses starts this time in Congress, where they failed to pass bills protecting children on social media. The Senate Judiciary Committee has held several high-profile hearings where researchers and whistleblowers describe the harms of the technology. Parents describe how their children suffered or died because of social media, and tech companies describe their efforts to make platforms safer. Meanwhile, reports of harm to children are growing exponentially. The committee has unanimously passed 5 bills in recent years, but none of them have made it to the Senate floor. So state legislators aren't waiting for Congress to act.
I've had a chance to meet with parents. I've had a chance to meet with kids. And I'll tell you, it's a problem. Everybody knows it's a problem. I keep hearing from social media companies they're working to fix the problem, resolve the problem. But that's not my impression.
That's Utah Senator Mike McKell, a Republican, who sponsored a bill after growing frustrated that Congress and tech companies weren't doing enough. McKell's bill requires companies to verify the age of minor users and then limit their access and online visibility to just their friends, unless their parents or guardians change the settings. It would allow parents to access and monitor their kids' use of the accounts with new tools. And it would require disabling systems like autoplay and push notifications that are blamed for addicting kids to their social media feeds. Another bill would give parents recourse to sue social media companies if their kids were harmed. They'd have to find a therapist who could identify the role social media played. And companies could protect themselves from liability if they require parents' approval to use the sites and build in limits for minors on time they can spend there. Both passed with bipartisan support last session, but lawmakers are revising them this session before they go into effect next month. An association representing tech companies, NetChoice, has already filed suit against the Utah bills. Carl Szabo is vice president and general counsel for NetChoice. He says just the requirement to verify age and determine who has parental say over a minor opens a huge can of worms. Everyone on the platforms would have to give personal information to prove their age, he says.
So if I were to try and do watch a video on YouTube, if I were to go onto X, or I were to use Instagram, if I would visit Reddit, any of these services, they would have to collect massive amounts of personal information to verify that I am who I say that I am, and I am of the age that I say that I am.
Senator McKell says he thinks the revisions this session will give the bills a good chance in court.
I'm optimistic with our litigation here in Utah, but there are parts that may get struck down, and that's okay. I have confidence we're going to get this right because the harm is too significant. And I don't think that lawmakers, policymakers, moms and dads, community leaders are going to stand by and tolerate it. And look, if we don't get it right now, we'll find a way to get it right.
In Minnesota, Representative Kristen Bonner is taking a different tack. She's a Democrat who is drawing on her 30 years experience in IT to craft a bill that requires platforms to use what's called age-appropriate design.
You've seen YouTube make some changes to sort of the addictive nature of their continuous scrolling content for children to kind of give them a break and a timeout. We've also seen folks like TikTok say, this idea that we're allowing 60-year-old men to message 13-year-old girls is probably not super safe or acceptable. So maybe we should no longer allow that type of thing unless it's someone that's already in that child's circle, a friend or a relative, folks that are closely connected to them.
Bonner believes her bill addresses the legal challenges that age-appropriate design bills have faced in other states. In fact, in California, a judge has put that bill on hold. And she's certain software developers can meet the challenge.
And do I think that it will be easy? Not necessarily. I think we have to be realistic. There are some challenges around how do we do that in a smart, intelligent way to prevent that harm, but also allow access, right? And I think to keep those kiddos safe. And I think we absolutely can do it through design.
Szabo of NetChoice doesn't agree. He says it still would infringe on First Amendment rights if companies had to put up barriers to information.
And an unconstitutional law will protect 0 children. And that's what we're trying to make clear to lawmakers across the country.
NetChoice is the leading opponent to these measures, but not the only one. Other technology advocates, the ACLU, and in some cases newspapers have joined lawsuits. Szabo says NetChoice has a set of recommendations to improve online safety. The one legislative fix they like is to create federal laws on data privacy rather than having 50 solutions in the states. The group says law enforcement should be better funded, go after child sexual abusers who operate online. Parents should be educated about existing tools they can use, and schools should add digital literacy and safety to the curriculum. Szabo emphasizes there's plenty of good that comes from technology, and no one is disagreeing with that.
But to say, because there's bad stuff, we have to eliminate all the good is literally throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
And he says parents have the primary role in helping their children navigate technology.
I will tell you that every time a kid cries and a parent hands them an iPad, there are repercussions for that. Just in the same way that if I left my kids at the house alone by themselves with a bag of Oreos and came home and was surprised they ate them all, you'd think, wow, that was really silly. You shouldn't have done that. Same thing's true with these devices. You shouldn't just leave your kids alone. You need to have conversations.
That doesn't go over well with legislators who believe the products themselves are the problem, that parents can't outsmart algorithms designed to grab and hold their children's attention without adequate guardrails. They say, of course, parents have a critical role, but not the only one. Lawmakers pushing for these regulations in state houses and Congress note this massive industry currently is protected from any liability, while other common products involving kids, baby food, pajamas, car seats, playground equipment, must meet safety standards. The scramble to find answers continues. Florida just passed the most restrictive law so far. It blocks anyone under 16 from using social media, even if their parents or guardians approve. That one will wind up in court if Governor Ron DeSantis doesn't veto it first. He said he wants to answer parents' concerns without restricting their rights. Senator McKell of Utah is encouraged by the wide-ranging ideas states are considering to address complex questions about technologies and rights.
I hope every state in America runs a bill, and I hope every state in America runs a different bill. I think the laboratories of democracy happen at the state level, and I like the approach that attacks it from a whole bunch of different angles, and it's okay. It's okay to see that.
I'm Kelly Griffin. Thanks for listening to Across the Aisle. If you want to take a look at all the measures that states are considering this session, you can find that at ncsl.org.